This time on The Greats, Queen of the Skies, Amelia Earhart. Master of the Universe, George Lucas. Golfing legend, Annika Sorenstam. And Grace Kelly, A Modern Fairy Tale. But first, Abdul Nasser, Part 2. As president of Egypt in the 1960s, Gamal Abdul Nasser was determined to modernize and improve his people's standard of living. The president increased spending on arts and culture, building a 50-acre cinema city outside Cairo to entice international film productions. Egyptian television stations and theater companies were expanded, scholarships awarded to painters, and local film productions subsidized. Access to education was also broadened, with elite schools nationalized and open to children from a range of backgrounds. Arab socialism promised a new era for some of the Middle East's most disadvantaged people. But as well as reforming Egypt, Nasser kept tight hold on the reins of power. He imprisoned political opponents, censored the media, and manipulated elections. But the Middle East was a powder keg waiting to blow. Nasser's Egypt jostled for position in both the Arab world and in the strategic world that was maintained in an edgy stalemate by the Cold War superpowers. By declaring Egypt as non-aligned, Nasser attempted to play the Soviets off against the Americans, raking in billions of Soviet dollars in infrastructure development and military aid. But both the USSR and the United States were concerned at Egypt's antagonism towards Israel. In 1958, Egypt and Syria had declared a united Arab republic, but the dream of Arab unity foundered when Syria pulled out of the Union in 1961 following a military coup. The president also became embroiled in a costly military exercise in 1962 when he sent troops to Yemen against the advice of his ambassador. Nasser expected a quick victory against pro-Saudi forces. However, 3 years later, troop commitments had escalated from 5,000 to 55,000 soldiers, and Nasser's standing in the Arab world was severely diminished. To regain some respect, Nasser acted on a warning from the Soviet Union that Israel was preparing to attack Syria and remilitarized the Sinai, the strip of desert between Israel and Egypt. He coordinated a multi-pronged Arab attack on Israel involving Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. However, a preemptive strike by Israel's Air Force on the 5th of June 1967 destroyed almost all of Egypt's bombers and fighter jets while they were still sitting on the tarmac. The Israelis also defeated Egypt on the Sinai and the Gaza Strip, and easily accounted for Jordan and Syria. By the end of the war, Israel had seized the Gaza Strip, Golan Heights, the Sinai Peninsula, and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, tripling its territory. Nasser was humiliated and resigned the presidency. The whole war took less than a week, and repercussions from the Six-Day War are still being felt in the Middle East today. Nasser swiftly launched the War of Attrition in an attempt to win back the Sinai. For 3 years, hostilities dragged on, with the USSR and the United States closely involved, both in supplying arms and trying to end the conflict. On August the 7th, 1970, a ceasefire was reached. Less than 2 months later, Nasser died of a heart attack following a meeting of Arab leaders to discuss Israel. More than 5 million people attended his funeral, the largest in history. Nasser left a mixed legacy. He modernized Egypt, reformed education, and reawoke pride in Arab culture and achievements. But Nasserism was too highly dependent on Soviet aid to be sustainable. So since the USSR's collapse, Egypt has struggled economically. And Israel's relationship with the Arab world remains on a knife edge, riven by tensions over territory taken by Israel during the Six-Day War. However, Nasser's place in history is assured. Modern-day Nasserites have redefined his political objectives and replaced authoritarianism with democracy. There is no doubt that whatever his faults, and there were many, Nasser wanted what was best for his people.